I'm going to start with something that might make you uncomfortable, especially if you're a woman watching this, especially if you've ever been on the other side of this moment. But if you're a man watching, just stay with me. This one's for you. If you feel yourself getting a little defensive right away, like I don't need to choose myself, I'm fine, just notice it. Don't push it away. Ask yourself why that reaction came up, because I promise you, if you actually stay with me for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to explain something that will quite literally reframe every relationship you've ever had, every sacrifice you've ever made, every version of yourself you've left behind trying to be what someone else needed. We've been sold this idea that love means sacrifice, that being a good man means putting everyone else first, that your worth is measured by what you provide, what you give, what you endure. And when relationships fall apart, when you feel empty, resentful, lost, you think it's because you didn't give enough. You didn't try hard enough. You weren't enough. Let me tell you something that might hurt. You're not failing because you're not giving enough. You're failing because you've been giving from an empty well. And empty wells don't sustain anyone. That narrative you've been running, if I just love her harder, if I just provide more, if I just hold on longer, that narrative is false. And honestly, it's been keeping you small. I'm going to explain something that's going to blow your mind. Because the day a man finally chooses himself, that's not the day he becomes selfish. That's the day his entire life actually begins. Here's what most people don't understand about self-abandonment. It starts way before you're in a relationship, way before you're bending over backwards for a partner who doesn't appreciate it. Self-abandonment is a pattern you learned, and like all patterns, your nervous system runs it automatically. When I talk about this with clients, I'm constantly referencing Dr. Tara Schwartz's work on attachment and the nervous system, because here's what happens. When you grow up learning that your needs don't matter, that your feelings are too much, that your job is to keep everyone else comfortable, your nervous system encodes that as survival. So as an adult, when someone asks something of you, your body doesn't even check if you have it to give. It just says, yes. When someone's disappointed in you, your body goes into panic mode. When there's conflict, your body says, fix it, even if it breaks you. And here's the part people hear, nod along to, and still don't fully get that pattern of abandoning yourself. It doesn't feel wrong. It feels familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when it's killing you slowly. Let me take you back. Think about what you learned about your own worth as a little boy. Maybe you had a parent who was overwhelmed, who couldn't handle your emotions, your needs, your questions. So you learned to be small, to not need things, to handle it yourself. Maybe love was conditional. Praise when you performed. Affection when you achieved. So you learned that your value is tied to what you do, not who you are. Maybe you watched your father sacrifice himself, work himself to exhaustion, give and give until there was nothing left. And you learned that's what men do. That's what love costs. I had a client, let's call him Marcus. Successful, accomplished, put together on the outside. But every relationship he had, he ended up resentful, giving too much, feeling unseen. He said to me once, I don't know why I keep ending up with women who take and take. I give everything, and it's never enough. And I asked him, Marcus, what did you learn about your own needs when you were little? He went quiet. Then he said, my mom was sick a lot from the time I was 7. My dad worked double shifts. I learned pretty quick that nobody had space for my stuff, so I just stopped having it. And I said, so you learned that your needs don't exist, and now you keep finding partners who agree with you. Now let's talk about why this pattern is so hard to break, because there's actual brain chemistry here. When you grow up in an environment where your needs weren't met, your nervous system gets wired for hypervigilance. You're constantly scanning for threat, constantly monitoring other people's moods, constantly trying to keep the peace. This creates a baseline of anxiety that feels normal. It's just your everyday. Then you get into a relationship with someone who's also inconsistent, also demanding, also unpredictable. And your brain says, I know this environment. I know how to survive this. But here's the crazy part. When you finally meet someone who's calm, consistent, undemanding, your nervous system doesn't relax. It gets more anxious because calm is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. That's why so many men self-sabotage when they finally meet a good partner. They pick fights. They create distance. They lose interest, not because the woman is wrong, but because peace feels threatening to a nervous system trained in chaos. I had another client, David. He came to me after ending things with a perfect woman, kind, stable, loved him. He said, "I don't get it. She was everything I asked for, but I felt nothing." Then I met this other woman, dramatic, hot and cold, keeps me guessing, and I'm obsessed. And I had to tell him, "David, that obsession isn't love. That's your nervous system lighting up because it recognizes the chaos from your childhood. Your mom was unpredictable too, and your brain is confusing familiar with right." Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. The day a man chooses himself, it's not this triumphant fireworks moment. Not at first. At first, it feels like loss. Because choosing yourself means letting go of people who could only love the version of you that gave and never asked for anything. Choosing yourself means sitting in the discomfort of not fixing everything, not managing everyone's emotions, not being the hero. Choosing yourself means feeling the grief of all those years you spent trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I had a client, Marcus from earlier. He called me one night. He'd just told his girlfriend he couldn't keep bankrolling her life. She was furious, called him selfish, said he'd changed. He said, "Lauren, I feel like the bad guy, like I'm doing something wrong." And I said, "Marcus, you're not the bad guy. You're just the guy who finally stopped being the doormat. And to someone who built their whole life on your back, that feels like betrayal." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "This is harder than I thought." And I said, "I know, because choosing yourself means losing everyone who only wanted the version of you that didn't. So what do you actually do with this? How do you actually choose yourself when your whole life you've been trained not to? First, stop calling it selfish. Selfish is taking from others to fill yourself. Self-preservation is making sure you have something to give, and you cannot give what you don't have. Second, start asking a different question. Not, how can I make them happy? Not, how can I keep the peace? Not, what do they need from me? Start asking, what do I need right now? And what part of me is afraid to ask for it? That question, that's where the healing starts. Because when you can sit with yourself and say, "Oh, I'm staying in this situation because leaving would mean facing the emptiness I've been running from my whole life." Now you have power. Now you can choose differently. And here's the hard truth. You don't attract better relationships by wanting better partners. You attract better relationships by becoming someone who can receive better love. When you finally choose yourself, really choose yourself, your whole attraction recalibrates. Neediness stops feeling magnetic. Chaos stops feeling like passion. Clarity starts feeling like home. And the people who once had power over you, the ones who could make you bend, break, abandon yourself, they don't even register anymore. I got a call from Marcus about a year after we finished working together. He said, "I need to tell you something. I met someone, and it's different." I said, "Different how?" He said, "She doesn't need me to save her. She doesn't need me to be her hero. She just likes me, for me." And at first it felt weird. Like, what am I supposed to do if she doesn't need anything from me? But I stayed with the discomfort. And now I get it. This is what it feels like to be loved without conditions. I didn't even know this existed. I said, "Marcus, that's not different love. That's just love. You just never let yourself receive it before." That's what happens when a man finally chooses himself. He doesn't become selfish. He becomes available. Available to receive the love he's been giving his whole life. Available to be seen. Available to be held. Available to finally rest. The day a man chooses himself, that's not the day he becomes alone. That's the day he becomes capable of real connection. Because you cannot connect from an empty well. You cannot love from a place of loss. So if you're a man watching this and something in you is stirring, don't push it down. Don't distract yourself. Don't go fix something else. Ask yourself, where am I abandoning myself right now? And what would it cost me to stop? Because I promise you, the people who only wanted the version of you that gave, they'll leave. Let them. The people who actually see you, they'll stay. And for the first time, you'll actually be present to receive them. Just trust me on that. If this hit home for you, I want you to do one thing today. Write down one place where you're giving from empty, and underneath it, write, "I deserve to receive too." I'll see you in the next one.